Uh, okay, so I decided to put together a brief talk entitled "A Year of Being Wrong on the Internet." And in honor of our host, I found a French phrase um, that kind of applies. It translates to "preach the falsehood to know the truth." Uh, I'm not going to try to pronounce the French, though. And as Tib mentioned, this is related to what's commonly referred to as Cunningham's law. Uh, Ward Cunningham is the guy who invented the wiki. You might know of Wikipedia. That's the most popular example of one. It's in general, a wiki is a hypertext that people can collaboratively edit and manage. And he said, according to one of his colleagues, the best way to get the right answer on the internet is not to ask a question, it's to post the wrong answer. Now, when I tweeted the topic of this talk after deciding on it, the man himself replied to me, and he and corrected me, saying that he had been misquoted. Um, but then again, I posted something wrong on the internet and got corrected. So maybe it's 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 proved itself. I don't know. Anyway, uh, this is all about the Perl blogging that I started doing earlier this year. I actually started on New Year's Day of 2021. It's at phoenixtrap.com. And I have been writing about Perl every week. I try to stick to a schedule. I have a very selfish reason for doing this. I want to continue working professionally with Perl. It fits my brain better than any other programming language I've found. So this is my way of making sure that it remains in the zeitgeist. I post links about my blog to various social media, um, Discord, Slacks that I'm on, IRC, things like that. I cross post to a lot of other blogging sites with varying levels of success. Um, the point of this exercise is to spread positive Perl info both inside and outside the Perl bubble. Um, it's one thing to just share this stuff within our own group here and get linked to in Perl Weekly and all that, but um, the some of the best results come from getting feedback from outside of the Perl language and those who practice it. Speaking of which, I've written some advocacy blogs about things that are great about Perl, things that people say that are not so great about it. Sometimes they've been in response to folks saying irrational or terrible things about Perl. I'm not going to be dwelling on those today, though. And I try not to dwell on those. I really try to target folks who genuinely are interested in what I have to say. So, as I said, I've been blogging for about 11 months now, almost a year, and the fun thing is I keep getting corrected by folks when I post my blogs. So this talk is going to be about some of those corrections and what I've done to address them. One of the earlier examples, I wrote an article about some of the more magical Perl features, and one of the things I listed had to do with context. I wrote a thing saying, no, this statement here, assigning a list 1, 2, 3 to food, that will get you the size of the list, right? Uh, no, that I even though I've been working with Perl for like 20 plus years, I got this wrong. That is assigns the last item in the list. I so rarely use this that I completely forgot that. Um, there are ways to get the size of an anonymous list. They're a little bit tricky, but those are them. So I ended up correcting the blog there and saying, no, um, this doesn't assign this list size. It just gets the last item of the list. Another time I got things wrong. Um, I wrote an article about ways to catch exceptions, and this little bit of code, it's a simplification of something that's actually in my employer's own application code, and it tests to see if $@ is true, and if it is, it says, oh, an exception happened. In this case, dividing by 0. Nope, somebody on Reddit told me that was a stupid idea. They said that exceptions, maybe not dividing by 0, but sometimes they can evaluate to false. Try Tiny on CPAN has a great discussion about ways in which catching exceptions this way is a bad idea, and why you should use modules like Try Tiny. If you're not, the better idea is to make sure that eval returns true on success and then key off of that. So you should really only be using $@ for the reason that something failed, not testing to see if it's true or false. Another thing I got wrong, I was writing about alternatives to doing cascading ifs and else ifs. It's the kind of thing that there's a Perl critic policy about that will trip you up if you have more than 2 chained else ifs. I was trying to avoid the whole given when smart matching thing because even though that was introduced in Perl 5.10, 5.18 moved it to experimental, and probably is going to stay there, if not get completely removed. One technique I had was using a hash lookup for an exact match. You set up a hash with its keys being strings, and then you use those keys to execute an anonymous bit of code, an anonymous sub based on the hash lookup. Another thing that you can do is do regex matching if you're matching against strings or really any other kind of comparison. It doesn't have to be a regex. It's just those look really nice, and usually that's the kind of thing you're matching against. You can use the for loop as a topicalizer. And as it goes through that, it assigns, in this case, foo to $_ and does those comparisons in order. The one thing you have to do is make sure you say last at the end, otherwise it's just going to do the next comparison. But no, I got a comment said that no, you really should look at Perl best practices again, because a lot of times all you're doing when doing a switch is you're assigning things. In that case, a stacked ternary is your best bet. Here I'm checking to see if different things compare, and if it's true, it returns the next thing in the ternary. If it's not, it goes to the next ternary, and so on and so on. It's ternaries are sometimes a little bit tricky for people to understand, especially if they're not used to them in C or shell programming or something like that. But if you lay them out like this in your code, it looks pretty clear. It looks like, okay, we're doing this. If so, that returns. If that, then this returns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, a lot of times when you're doing a switch kind of construction and the results of which are an assignment, this is really the best way to go. Another article I wrote, I was talking about Modulicious web application routes, and somebody asked me, instead of listing all of your routes inside of the main module for your application, could you put them in a separate file so it's easier to maintain? And so I said, yeah, sure. Let's put together a tiny little module that you can use. You say use route demo routes, and then you call the function that you export using exporter, and that will go ahead and add the routes that you're going to use for Modulicious. In this case, it says if you get the root of a site, it'll call the welcome method in the example controller. I'm really speeding through this, I know, but you can look at my blog for the full explanation. But then one of the guys who actually works on Modulicious said, no, don't do that. Make a plugin instead. It's more idiomatic, whatever that means. So this is the way that he said to do it. He said, use Mojobase with Modulicious plugin, and then it has these methods that it automatically calls when you use the plugin to do things like register routes and all that. It's a little different, but the nice thing is you don't have to worry about having funny imports or something like that in your use statements. You just call it like any other Modulicious plugin. You say app plugin route demo plugin routes, and boom, it's loaded for you. Lastly, I've gotten a lot of times when I write these blogs, somebody says, well, you covered this module, you covered that module, you covered this. What about my favorite module? Great example. I wrote a blog about subroutine signatures, and I talked about the experimental signatures support that was added in Perl a couple versions ago, and 5 different type validation modules, params validate, type params, etc. I figured that was pretty good for a blog post covering 5 different things in CPAN. No, comments I got on social media said, no, there's a bunch of others, like 7 others that you missed. Method signatures simple, sub signatures, all this other stuff on CPAN. So I expanded this into a presentation at my local Perl Mongers. I covered them there. Posted that presentation to my blog saying, okay, I think I'm done with this topic. No, I missed some more. Class params parser, method param validator, return type, routines, etc. So I wrote another article describing 5 additional modules. Thing I learned from this is that sometimes the whole there is more than one way to do it philosophy of Perl can get a little silly. Everybody has their own take on things, and I guess use whatever works for you. I'm still using type params in most of my code, but um, my at work we use MooseX params validate because people are more comfortable with that. So use whatever works for you. So after a year of this being constantly corrected on the internet for the things that I'm writing, um, you might think, okay, so now what do you do when this happens? Um, what I've found, best approach, first off, say thank you. Don't take it as an insult that somebody's correcting you. They're usually genuinely trying to help, or sometimes they're just trying to show off that they know more than you. But regardless, the idea is to try to put out good information. So um, this is uh, this is helpful to you. I've posted I post an update or I fix the blog post that I make. Sometimes this can be tedious because, like I said, I'm cross posting like 4 different sites and all, and they all have their own content management systems and things. And some use Markdown, some you have to type things in a GUI. Um, your changes to one post don't automatically get picked up by others. So um, it can get tedious, but I'm committed to this, so I do it. Or at least put it on your to-do list. I still have a backlog of things that I still have to correct or write follow-ups on, and yeah, I'll get to them eventually. Um, the thing is, though, I keep moving on. If you're doing this, if you're posting things on social media or on your own blog or something like that, you're still awesome for putting things out there. So don't get discouraged. You're the one who's publishing things, and it's very easy to for people to criticize, but in the end, you're the one who's putting this stuff out there, and it's to your credit for doing so. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to know at this point from everybody any improvements I could make, either to this presentation, or I'd maybe explain some things better. I can go back on to some of these examples if people have questions about some of the code I was writing. Um, if there's improvements, people have ideas on things I can blog about, I'll or corrections, more corrections of things I've written about. I'll be happy to take them. That's it. I spun pretty fast through this, so if anybody wants me to go back, let me know. I'll open the floor to questions.
I have a question. I imagine that that the probably for me the most shocking thing of what you're doing is the fact that you can stick to that schedule, that you have something that you can write every week and you keep it at it. And I think that's really commendable. It's really inspirational, and I should try to do it sometime. But I imagine that in order for you to do that, you have some sort of backlog of posts, so you write them in advance. I was wondering how many of those you have stacked for a rainy day.
I'll confess I don't have any articles pre-written stacked. I have a backlog of ideas, and I pull from that, or maybe sometimes it's the things that I've been working on that week at work that that provide ideas and things like that. But I haven't gotten very good at having a backlog of things ready to publish, so that if something happens, if I fall ill or something, that things will just go out on their own. I really need to get better at that. Uh, it's funny. You'll sometimes see me posting on Twitter. Once again, I've been procrastinating, and I'm writing, and I'm furiously writing and editing Monday night before publishing the following Tuesday morning. So um, yeah, it's still a little seat of the pants. Anything else? I really try. It's funny. I was really worried I was going to go over my time on
Mark,
this.
can you go through over again for the correction you got from Cunningham?
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. He the quote again, the quote, the Cunningham's law thing, that that wasn't something apparently he actually said. One of his colleagues uh, noted it in response, I think, to a New York Times article. Um, and it's widely attributed. If you search for Cunningham's law or that text on the internet, you'll find hundreds of hits for it. It's got its own Wikipedia page and everything. That's sort of the most ironic thing. But yeah, he wrote on his own wiki that you learn more about a subject if you write what you do know rather than questions about what you don't. So maybe he's changed his mind, or the colleague misinterpreted what he was saying, or just interpreted what he was doing as that law. Sometimes sometimes you're saying sometimes a law that's named after you, you don't get to choose what's actually said. I mean, there's Murphy's law. Who I don't think Murphy, whoever that was, ever got to choose what got attributed to him. So I don't know. There's a debate on this. I I think Wikipedia is a great example of gradually correcting things until something becomes pretty authoritative. So that's there, and there seems to be a genuine tendency for people to correct other people on the internet. I mean, if we didn't, social media and Twitter and all that probably wouldn't even exist.
And I think you are completely right that it doesn't matter if is misquoted; it's basically confirmed by his correction. So,
yeah, and I replied to him. I said, "So it looks like you proved it." And then he replied back just this morning, "Well, we'll see if it takes in a couple of years."
thank you.
Mm-hmm. What else? It looks like, gosh, I still have 10 minutes left in my time slot.
It's not a problem. We can finish in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're searching for topics or you don't have this on your backlog, could you put oh God, what am I doing here? Could you put uh, in injections, test injections, that kind of stuff? An article about that, how to do dependency injections for testing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Let me see here. I'm pulling up.
And it doesn't have to be the next one.
Yeah, no, I have this text file of ideas, dependency injections for testing. Are you talking about like mocking things, mocking objects and stuff like that, or
Well, it's either mocking objects or actually necessarily mocking mocking objects, being able to mock functions. Um, you know, I've been working with Python a lot lately, and their ability to reach in and grab stuff. I'm not quite sure how to translate that into Perl sometimes.
oh yeah, there are a bunch of CPAN modules that'll help with that, and we use them pretty extensively at work.
Perfect.
So yeah, that would be a great idea. It's especially important when so that your unit tests don't inadvertently turn into integration tests because you're actually talking to something outside of your code base.
You hit the hammer right on the head. Or you hit the
So,
nail on the head, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's
Thank you.
That's a great idea. Noted. I will. It's on the list.